thing I really like about this is, aside from it's in paperback cheap, it's also in the libraries cheaper. And the forward, this is one of those books where the forward, all by itself, should have been a separate book. Because in the forward, he described, Harold is on the faculty at Yale, he's on the English faculty at Yale, and he's a specialist in modern language and particularly modern literature and particularly Shakespeare. He's written aside from Shakespeare. One of the authors, the Wall Street Journal, says, a huge cloak bag of ideas. It's a feast. It really is. The forward feast is his premise that Shakespeare's body of work had such a powerful influence on modern culture that we are a product of Shakespeare's work. Modern humans are formed by Shakespeare. You all were able to describe quotations and images and thoughts and ideas and what a Romeo is and all of these things which are so deeply part of our culture, and not just American culture or British culture, but European, Asian culture as well, and African culture, where his books have been reproduced and his plays have been done in all culture, so that the universality of the themes that we recognize may be because, not because the themes are universal, but because we've incorporated them. Because we recognize them because we're a product of it. So that's a really fascinating story. The rest of the book is play by play, his analysis of each play. So if I'm directing a Shakespeare play, this is one of the first places that I go to read, to see what a modern scholar has to think about the characters. And of course, the fact that his favorite character in all of Shakespeare is Falstaff, who was one of my characters. I agree with him. I think Shakespeare, Falstaff is the ultimate character in Shakespeare, but the ultimate human. Very fascinating. Reasonably readable, doesn't require a lot of background information about Shakespeare for a scholarly text. That's really superb. Now, a lot of the anecdotes that I got about Shakespeare come from two books. This is called Shakespeare the Biography. That's a lie. Okay, it's appropriate because a lot of what we know about Shakespeare is a lie. Peter Ackroyd wrote what would have been Shakespeare's biography if we could fill in the blanks. So it is fictionalized, and he makes it very clear up front that it is fiction, but it's fiction that's embedded in a historic fact that we know about Shakespeare. So there are legal documents that we have of Shakespeare. There are what other people at the time wrote about Shakespeare, what we know historically was going on at the times. And it only gets tedious in places where you say, well, it was very possible that he might have known this person, and that's a reach from me historically, but very readable and fills in a lot of the blanks about who Shakespeare might have been. And the question about whether he did it as a hobby or a career. From this book, I get the impression that if you think about people in the 16th century in England as having careers, it doesn't happen that way. Most people in England at that time, the late 1500s, were bound to the land. That is, they were essentially serfs. They worked a farm that was owned by a nobleman, and they paid rent or taxes, whatever they called it. They were essentially indentured servants. Some of them may have been able to gather some money over generations to buy their own piece of land, which they could farm while they were farming the big guy's land. They were not allowed to travel. Let me say that again. Travel from Stratford to London would have been forbidden for most of those people. You were a vagabond, a renegade, a rebel if you traveled. And if you traveled from Stratford to the town next door, the people in that town had a right to beat you up and run you out of town. Because the townspeople depended on each other for food and shelter and protection. And if you were there, you couldn't go to a grocery store to buy a sandwich because there were no grocery stores. You had to get food from somebody, and you were taking somebody else's food. and actors at the time who went around with a wagon and would put on productions of, if they were not under the protection of the noble, they would get beaten up and kicked out of town. So there was not a very pleasant time. There were very few mobile guilds, like you would think about a person who would go by a tinker, okay, who would fix pots and pans. They were gypsies, they were renegades, they were not high-level people. Noblemen were also bound to the land in the sense that most of them were landed gentry whose estates provided them with a living. They may go to London because they had the freedom of travel. It was one of the privileges of nobility. In the cities, London was not the only city, there were manufactories which created a working class and created a merchant class, and there were shipyards that built ships, and there were merchants who traded very much at the beginning of the British Empire. Okay, when Shakespeare was born, the British Empire consisted of Great Britain and a part of Scotland, not even Ireland. Okay, and during Elizabeth's time, it grew, included the New World, included parts of of Africa, and then eventually parts of Asia and India. So to think of these people as having a career, it would be more like, where am I going to get food from next? And sometimes I'd steal it, and sometimes I'd have it given to me. And if I could get the protection of royalty or noble, that would be the way that a person like Shakespeare would have lived. Okay, Shakespeare the biography. This is Marjorie Garber's. This is now 2 years old, I think. 3 years old. Shakespeare After All, Shakespeare and Modern Culture. This is a book about how Shakespeare relates to and has been used by different political and social forces mostly through the 20th century. So the women's movement, not all for good, anti-Semitism supported by some Shakespeare, racism supported by some Shakespeare, civil rights supported by some Shakespeare. And it's very interesting to see how both sides of most of these big political issues could see Shakespeare as arguing in their favor. The labor movement from Shakespeare and the anti-labor movement, Shakespeare. Pardon?
Just like the Bible and slavery.
Exactly. It may not be in the book, it may be in the heart of the person who's reading it, and they can find something in the book that satisfies what they've got to do. So that's I'm looking here, and I'm missing a book by John Barton. It's called Playing Shakespeare, and it's on the list, and it's the one that's in video. It's unfortunately, I haven't found it in DVD, it's in VCR. And the interesting thing about that is it's a series of acting lessons that John Barton works with some young people who are studying how to be actors and using Shakespeare as the basis for it, using Shakespearean text, and you get to see it lived out. What's interesting to me is one of the guys on the movie is Patrick Stewart, who is not Captain Kirk, going after him. In the second Star Trek series, he played and David Suchet, who plays Hercule Poirot on the Masterpiece Theater, and the two of them both talk about playing Shylock. And David Suchet is Jewish, and he talks about being a Jew playing an anti-Semite, and Patrick Stewart is not a Jew, but he talks about the discomfort of playing an anti-Semite and how that works out. So those are fascinating references. Now, I did this. Okay, save the best for last. The Complete Idiot's Guide to Shakespeare is a seriously good reference book. If you are faced with the need to talk to Shakespeare, about Shakespeare to your students, okay, and you want to find the quick brush up, this book is invaluable. It's not the book I would go to if I was going to direct Shakespeare, but it is organized by play, it's organized by history, so you can pick up lots of little, what I call motivational pieces that keep the interest level in the room up and keep people excited about it. there is a book called The Complete Shakespeare, not The Complete Idiot's Guide, but The Complete Shakespeare, which is on the list. Make sure I got the citation right. Because, it's called The Essential Shakespeare, Dunton Downer, the one that looks like it is striped through the middle of it. That is, fortunately or unfortunately, my Bible when I'm directing Shakespeare. It has everything a director needs to know about the plays, how they've been staged before, character analyses, and that sort of thing in very readable form. And unfortunately, mine seems to have left my possession, not with my stack. Okay. Here's what I'd like to do. I said we're going to try to approach a piece of work here as a group, which will challenge us to see, well, to ask the question, what do we need to know? And while I'm hunting for it online, I apologize for the quality of the print. My printer started running out of ink, but I think it's readable. Let me give you some background and context. Most of this is a sonnet. And let me pull back so you can see what I'm talking about. The first 14 lines of this piece is a sonnet. Near the bottom of the page is a series of lines that are underlined, and they are not part of the sonnet, although they continue the scene. This is clearly a duet, a dialogue between Romeo and Juliet. And why Shakespeare chose to use the sonnet form at this point in the play. There are 3 sonnets in Romeo and Juliet. One is the prologue, the next one is this, and the other one is the prologue to Act 2, which are sonnet forms. We can speculate a sonnet is a very romantic form, and that may be why he chose it. This is the only example that I'm aware of a sonnet that he publishes which is a duet, 2 people working the lines, although I've seen some people do sonnets as duets. All right, the background. Romeo is in love with Rosalind. We never meet Rosalind in the play, only through Romeo's eyes. He's head over heels in love with this other girl. And she has rejected him, so he is mooning about, and his buddies try to cheer him up. They decide to cheer him up. They will crash a party, and the party is being given by Capulet, who is Romeo's father. In the play, the party is apparently a family party, but Capulet turns it into a showcase for his daughter and invites Paris to come to the party. During the party, there is dancing and music, and it's a masked ball, which is how Romeo and his buddies, the Montagues, get to crash the party without being recognized because they're wearing masks covering their faces. It's at least a device which allows us to say they didn't recognize who they were because they were wearing masks. They show up, and during the party, there's dancing and singing and eating and drinking, and during the dance, Romeo hits Juliet. I mean, what happens is, it's not in the stage directions, but most people's stages, at some point during the dance, their eyes meet. They see each other across the room. And in the dance, they are dancing, and of course, Romeo's a teenager. He's not really coordinated, and he smacks her, okay? And then this scene happens, okay? So what has gone on just before the scene is that Romeo has hit Juliet. This is their first contact with each other, literally, in the play. Take a moment to read it, if you haven't already. Read it again, and what we're going to try to do is direct the scene, to put actions to this scene. While you're working on this, you might want to try finding the breath marks. Everybody had a chance to read through it this once? Okay. Now, there are some recurring words. When Shakespeare repeats words near each other, the image is an important image for him, and very often the words occur with slightly different meanings or connotations. So we'll try to find, but at least they give us themes. One such word is pilgrim in this piece. You notice the pilgrim occurs in the third line of Romeo's first piece, in the third line of Juliet's piece. It occurs then as the second word of Juliet's next piece. And another image that repeats is saint. Saint's lips. Dear saint, saints do not move. So what I'm trying to describe for you here is, if I were going to try to act this, if I was going to try to block this or direct it from an actor's point of view, I would want to spend some time thinking about what those words pilgrims mean. Hi, do we have extras on the table?
Yep. Sorry.
That's all right, you got stuck in traffic. I know. The dogs wouldn't come back.
Something like that. Exactly. Sorry.
It's okay. We're working on a sonnet which is embedded in Romeo and Juliet. This is immediately after the ballroom scene, or as the end of the ballroom scene. Romeo has just smacked Juliet, and this interchange occurs. We're trying to identify, I gave a number of topics here, so let me lay them all out. Number one, what do we need to know? Okay, we're reading this, and if we don't know something, we have to find it. We gotta go. Like John Upchurch said, some of those words I have to look up. So which words do I need to get more information about? What images? The second thing is we're going to direct this. So we're going to imagine two actors. Maybe I'll ask two people to volunteer to be Romeo and Juliet and be directed by us. And third, so I'm starting this, the kind of deconstruction that I would do, and one of them would be to look for common themes. And one theme which is common, I noticed, is the word pilgrim, which occurs 3 times. And the word saint, which occurs 3 times. And there's an image about praying. So, pilgrims, saints, and prayers. What's the theme? Religion. Okay, so let me just back off for a minute. I know that it's not a fair question because you guys don't study British history. What religion was active when Shakespeare was alive in England?
Was it Catholicism or no? Protestant?
The answer is you're right, both of you. It depended on who was in charge, When? Because when Henry VIII was in charge, he was Catholic. Big RC Catholic, defender of the faith Catholic, and then he told the Pope to go suck eggs. I'm going to divorce my wife, and he became among the first Protestants, a non-Catholic Christian religion, and when that Church of England became the dominant religion in England, what happened to the Catholics?
Is that the Episcopal?
Yeah, well, it was in America. The Episcopal Church is most closely related to Church of England, sometimes called
Right.
the Anglican Church.
Yeah.
So, what happened to the Catholics when the Anglicans were in charge? They got killed. They martyred them. They burned priests. They tortured them. All of the churches in England were Catholic, you understand. England's a big country, ruled by the king, but by feudal lords, and they didn't have TV or cell phones. So when the king says, you're not Catholic anymore, a lot of people said, screw you, we're Catholic. And so they had to change their minds. And one of the characteristics of the Anglican religion was a simplicity in their worship space. So if you go into an Episcopalian church today, the service is almost identical to the Roman Catholic service, okay? But there are fewer statues, paintings on the walls, and because the Anglican Church said that was inappropriate. And literally what happened when the Anglican Church was prosecuting Catholics, the Catholic parishes would bury their statues. And then the politics would change. And Catholic is okay again, they dig up the statues and put them back in place. Okay. And what were the statues of? Statues of saints. Sometimes statues of Christ, sometimes statues of his mother, sometimes statues of saints. And putting this love story into that religious context emphasized the contrast between the Catholics and the Anglicans. Oh, like the Capulets and the Montagues. Okay, if he could have said Romeo was Catholic and Juliet wasn't, it would have made perfect sense to his audience that they were on the wrong sides of that argument. But it was a change, and this is one of the places that Shakespeare talks about religion. So the religious imagery. Now let me just, in case you're a doubter, this holy shrine, blushing pilgrims, saints pray, palm to palm, holy palmer. Who's a palmer? What is a palmer? That's something you have to know, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what is a palmer?
Is that a priest?
No, actually, the image comes from Palm Sunday, which is the two days one of the 2 days of the year that has big attendance at Catholic churches because they give away something free. The other is Ash Wednesday. They give you ashes and palms, and they give you a little piece of palm to carry around. The palm says, "I'm a believer," and in English, in this time that Shakespeare was writing, you couldn't leave your hometown. You could get beaten up and sent back unless you were on a pilgrimage. If you were leaving your town for religious purposes, I'm going to go to the shrine at Canterbury and worship at that shrine. And one of the ways you indicated you were doing that was by wearing a piece of palm, or carrying a palm. Okay, like the people entering Jerusalem, Christ's triumphant return to Jerusalem. So what Shakespeare is doing here is pulling on that imagery that a pilgrim is a person who goes to worship at a shrine, okay, and using the word palmer to refer to them. And he makes that a pun, incidentally. It's palm to palm is holy palmer's kiss. We'll see what that looks like in a minute. So what has happened in this? Shakespeare has created imagery about religion. Saints' prayers, shrines, pilgrims, palms, all about this two young people who have just fallen in love, okay? He's not talking about, I don't think, religion as the source of all love. He's talking about this conflict that they're experiencing and using that imagery. So let's unpack this. In the first line, Romeo says, if I profane, what does profane mean?
Do something wrong.
That's a good SAT
Soils.
word, make dirty. What, sorry?
I was just meant, like, in this context, to me, do something wrong or
Do something wrong, but literally it means to make common and to make dirty or
okay.
filthy, okay? If I profane with my unworthiest hand this holy shrine, what's the holy shrine?
Juliet.
Juliet. Interesting question, where did he hit her? It's a
in
choice
her
we're going to
face.
have to
In her
make.
face. I don't know. I was
well,
just thinking lips, but I don't know. I was picturing somewhere.
It's one of these things where we come in the theater, it's a choice we have to make. Where is he gonna hit her? Okay, think about the options. If I make dirty with my hand this shrine, you, somewhere on your body, the fine is this, my lips, blushing pilgrims, stand ready to smooth that touch with a kiss. All right, well, that leaves out some of the options for the children's show. Maybe not for Broadway, but there's a wonderful play called R&J. It is a great thing to ask kids to do, maybe older middle school kids, younger high school kids. It's about 4 boys in an all-boys school who, we don't get to see very much of the school except we hear people marching, trump, thump, thump in the background. They escape to an attic with a copy of Romeo and Juliet and decide to stage it, just the 4 of them. And they do play all the parts. One of the kids plays Romeo, the other guy plays Juliet, and the other 2 guys play all the other parts around them. It is a wonderful, wonderful piece of experience. The props are a bench and like a scarf. And the scarf becomes a hat, it becomes blood, it becomes all kinds of wonderful stuff. It's wonderful. And the kiss, this scene, how powerful it is. Because what happens to the kids is they get caught up in it. They do it as a joke and they get caught up in the emotion of it. And it's about literature transforming minds. And it's really exciting. Okay, so we're deconstructing. So Juliet hits her and offers to kiss it and make it better. Okay?
Romeo.
Oh, sorry, Romeo, right, sorry. Romeo hits Juliet and offers to kiss it and make it better. Juliet says what? Saints have hands that pilgrims' hands do touch, and palm to palms holy palmers kiss. What could that mean?
Prayer. Like hands together.
Okay, so let me borrow your palm. Hold it up. Stop. In the name of stop. Okay. You're Juliet. Okay. And I've got. I'm trying to kiss your hand. Let's say so. Let me grab your hand. I'm going to kiss it, and you do the stop move, and boom.
Right.
Palm to palm is holy palmer's kiss. Get it? Okay. Okay. I mean that's a joke in there, but it is absolutely one way she can say no to him.
Right.
Okay, and turn it to this religious thing. Saints, I mean, who are saints? Saints are holy people. What does this have to do with pilgrims? Pilgrims would go to a shrine to visit the statue of the saint. And what they would do is touch it. It doesn't touch back, okay, because it's a saint, it's rock, you know, it's marble. Okay, so saints have hands, and pilgrims' hands touch them, and they pray with that. And Romeo says, saints have lips, and pilgrims kiss the statue of the saint to show devotion. And Juliet says, use your lips in prayer. And then he says, then, dear saint, you're the statue, resisting, not responding. Let lips do what hands do, they pray. Grant thou, lest faith turn to despair. And she says, I'm not moving. And he says, then don't move, and I will make my prayer. And that's the end of the sonnet. What has to happen next?
They need to kiss.
They have to kiss. Okay. Because then he says, from my lips by yours my sin is purged. And she says, let my lips have the sin that they have taken. Sin from thy lips, O trespass sweetly urged, give me my sin again. Of course.
Another one.
And then the strangest line, which I
Yeah.
like to try to put this. The last line she says, I will admit I'm not sure at all what that means. There could be, there's all kinds of things. What do you do when you swear in the Bible? You kiss by the book, okay? That's just, or maybe she's been reading, because the nurse is her teacher, and the nurse is the filthiest mouth in the play. And maybe the nurse has been telling her about kissing and reading to her from books about kissing. And so maybe he kisses just like the books say he should be kissing. I'm not sure. You could decide how to play that. Is she making fun of him, or is she laughing at him? And the next thing that happens is the nurse comes in and says, Juliet, your mother's looking for you. That breaks the move. Okay, let me see if we can play this. I need 2 actors. Who would like to act?
I can do it.
Okay, we need another actor. You get to pick Romeo or Juliet.
Oh, Juliet.
You want
For sure.
You need a Romeo, you want to be Romeo?
Okay.
Okay, front and center, we're gonna direct you.
Oh, I thought we could do it from here, no?
No,
I take it back.
actors are
Flip it.
actors, okay?
Actors act.
Turn this way.
I'm sorry? Oh, you wanna get this on film, yeah?
Oh, boy.
Okay, now I need somebody to be the voice of Romeo. Their responsibility will be on cue to read Romeo's lines. You don't have to memorize them, just to read them.
I'll read it.
Okay, you'll be Romeo, and we need somebody to read Juliet. Okay, we've got a Juliet reader. Okay, so here's the first choice that we have to make. You may want to move that chair because you're at a dance. Okay, so what kind of dance should it be? Should it be period? Should it be modern? Should it be?
A period dance.
We want it to be period. Okay, so what would period dancing look like?
Yeah, we'd have
Hands out.
ballrooms.
Okay, not touching.
Not touching.
Okay, not touching, so you might move and you might turn around. And somewhere during this, we have to get you close enough so he hits her. And we have to decide where. Okay, so that's a tad more aggressive than I think. He's supposed to be kind of ungainly. He probably doesn't intend to. So here's an idea. Start off on opposite corners. We'll see how this direction works. You have to have the moment where you see each other. So find each other's eyes. Now, wait a second. Before you put action on it. You're both immediately in love, but embarrassed by that. And maybe he's particularly embarrassed by it, and so he's in love, but he doesn't want to show it. So when he's dancing, he's going to sneak looks at her. So as you're dancing, you sneak looks at her, and you may stare at him completely because we're making you, yes, and he's embarrassed. Well, we can play it. You're both embarrassed, sneaking looks at each other while you dance. So dance and sneak looks. Oh yeah, whoa. That's a booty check. We got a booty check in there. Now, so as you're turning around, you see you're turning, and I'd like Juliet to turn. And when Juliet turns, if you are turning both the same way, okay, now he's going to have to kiss your elbow. That's not going to work. So I think let's make the director's choice that it's your hands that hit. Okay. So the first question that's really important is which hand gets hit.
Let's see, I'm spinning this way, so probably this one.
Okay, so here's our problem. Face each other for a minute, and I want you to take your left hand. Okay, that's the one you said you would hit. Okay, hold it up in the stop move, and now you make the prayer move, but it's got to be with your right hand. No, with him. So you're going to take her hand, your right hand, the other right hand, Romeo. That's it. Okay.
The other one.
There, good. Now, that's the prayer move. Now, so the question is whether we want that to block them from the audience. Do you
So
see how
right
the
hand.
blocking?
So my right hand
So,
would be-
so your right hand and your left hand make that scene. You see how they're open now, and they can deliver the lines. Of course, while you're talking to each other, the conceit is we know you're talking to each other, but you don't have to look at each other. You can deliver the lines to us. You're not going to speak; they are, right? That's what so here's what I'm saying: is the action problem. We've got to make it be that you hit her right hand.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the block, so you're going block, hit the right hand, don't make it too hard for her. There you go. Okay, I think that's gotta be more of a hit than a push, so if you are turning counterclockwise, no, you want you to turn counterclockwise like that, turn clockwise, you turn counterclockwise, the other way,
You gotta turn
the other
this
way,
way.
turn around the other way,
This way.
turn the other way.
It's, okay. this
Okay,
is called-
now when you come around, boom, you see that's how it works?
Okay.
Okay, so let's try to get that in action. And action, move, twist, turn, start the turn, make the smack, boom,
Whoa.
good. Okay, now you're gonna be apologetic, and so you're gonna reach for her hand, pick it up as if you're gonna kiss it. No, how would you?
Talk to the
No,
hand.
your hand is down, don't do stop.
I'm not doing the stop
Don't,
thing?
not yet. You're gonna reach for her hand, I'm gonna kiss it, make it better. Oh, now you can do stop. See, that's the sequence, okay? Hit, try to get it, oh, let me kiss it, make it better, and then stop, okay? Now, we all got that? Let's put it to the words. Okay, who's starting? Romeo?
I'm Romeo.
Romeo, start your lines.
If
Oh,
I-
wait, no, you have to hit first.
What? Are
So,
we-
so dance, dance, dance.
Okay.
So action, dance, 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 start to turn, smack, grab, line.
If I profane with my unworthiest hand this holy shrine, the gentle fine is this. My lips, two blushing pilgrims, ready stand to smooth that rough touch with a tender kiss.
Stop. Juliet.
Good pilgrim, you do wrong. Your hand too
Romeo, don't
much.
put your hand down yet.
Which mannerly devotion shows in this? For saints have hands, that pilgrims' hands do touch.
Juliet has to move his hand into the
And
prayer.
palm to palm is holy
You
palm's
may need your other hand to do that.
kiss.
Reach over, turn his hand.
Turn his hand?
No, his hand, you're holding her hand, she says stop, okay? His hand is down, your hand is up. You have to get his hand,
Into the,
and so you're not gonna be able to do it one-handed. Reach around with your other hand, there you go, palm to palm, making a prayer, there you go. And you can separate just a little bit then, boom, not too much, because you're kissing. Well, Romeo's not giving up.
Have not-
Romeo's line,
Have not saints' lips and holy palmers too?
Juliet.
Aye, pilgrim, lips that they must use in prayer.
Now, Romeo, this is your move to come in, okay? Now, there's a couple of ways you can come in. You may want to hold her hand, and it's not a karate move, just lower it, because that'll force you to come closer, so you can step in, and then you have to get your other hand to her hand, so you can hold both hands.
Oh.
Okay, because this is the setup for the kiss. You see the kiss starting to happen here. The only way he's going to get her to kiss is to get her squared off the right way, because if she's still backed off. Now, all these things that I'm talking about are director's choices. There are a million ways you can choreograph this. I'm not saying this is the only one. I'm trying to illustrate how we find the timing of the action to the text. In Hamlet, Hamlet says to the actors, suit the word to the action to the word. That's what we're trying to do, is find ways of getting the action to the word mixing together. So Juliet has said, Romeo has said, have not saints' lips, and holy palmers to Juliet says, lips that they must use in prayer. On Romeo's line, next line, let me hear it.
Oh, then, dear saint, let lips do what hands do. They pray, grant
That has
thou.
to be, you've got to start bringing her in, and she is, now, she's playing statue. Okay, so to bring her in, you've got to move her hands out of the way and move in yourself. So use the There you go. Okay, I like that move because it forces the geometry to close up. You see, by spreading the hands, now I can move in. And Romy has just said, they pray, grant thou, let's face turn to this one. Now I need a bit of attitude from you. Have you decided to let him kiss you at this point? I think the answer is yes.
Probably by now, yeah.
Saints do not move, though grant. So let me hear what it sounds like.
Saints do not move, though grant for prayer's sake.
And Romeo says, then move not.
While my prayers effect I take.
And then that's where the kiss happens. I don't know what your relationship is, you may
Watch.
decide.
It's a lot of practice.
Okay, so,
Never think
Little
about the
moves.
actors and what they have to.
so it's, one of my points is this, that we've been working with sonnets using only a voice tool to illustrate what the meaning of the sonnet is. The having action to the word puts another dimension of meaning that helps you understand the thought process that has to go into creating a presentation. What typically happens in the production of a stage play, if you're not familiar, they